boxcar, the wings of a magpie, or the hooligan knife. I busted up a shepherd road, way out by the Kokomo, cook up a mess of mulligan, got into a fight. West the path and graveyard, stepping on a crack. Me and mother up on top of one-eye jack. You probably see me sleeping, how about a railroad tracks? Well, go on out to prison darkness, what about all that smoke come from the stack? Sometimes I kill myself a jackal, snuck out all the blood. Steal myself a station wagon, driving through the mud. I'm on the way to past the graveyard, stepping on the...
Hello, and welcome back to the Plutocracy Report on PRN. I'm Vince Marcanti, and to start off today, let's do a quick resistance report. I want to send my energy waves to the brave and determined revolutionary protesters in Lebanon. On Tuesday and Wednesday, police wielding batons and firing tear gas wounded and arrested dozens of protesters. These past 2 nights, the police were really barbaric, said Cynthia Seliman, a charity worker and protester who ended up in a hospital after Wednesday night's violence in Beirut. I had just arrived and was looking for my friends when the policeman grabbed me, hitting me on the head and neck. I fell to the ground and blood was streaming out, she said. Activists believe police violence may indicate Lebanon's establishment has lost patience with protesters and is also stung by public wrath against banks, which have curbed access to savings and blocked most transfers abroad. These people are facing an economic crisis, and they're sick of the power elite controlling their government. They actually got their prime minister to step down, but still the voice of the people is not being heard, and they won't give up. You scumbag cops protecting the elite better join with the people, or you'll be squashed, because the people have protested peacefully for 3 months, and they won't stay that way forever if you keep abusing them. We will overrun you order-following rats, and if it takes violence, so be it. Power to the people all over this planet. Time to end rule by the greedy rich. All right, well, let's get into how we allowed things to get so freaking bad. Let's examine the methods of mass mind control. As I have described, our culture is constantly shaped by the mind manipulators and propagandists of the power structure. We are taught to trust authority without question and do our jobs without integrity or concern for others. So the people at the CDC can say, vaccines don't cause autism. That's been debunked. So they can keep their cushy jobs. And, hey, only 1 out of about 50 kids is getting autism from vaccines, so who cares? Do they have any idea what it's like to raise a child with severe autism? No, and they don't care because big pharma money flow is what's important, and that's all anyone contributes to. Extend that to every governmental job. Simply go with the flow and obey who's in control. Shut up and do as you're told. You can't get in trouble for trusting authority, so shut off your mind. Your life is planned, and your mind has been manipulated. Here's a quote from the kind of cool but pretty cheesy movie, They Live by John Carpenter. The poor and the underclass are growing. Radical justice and human rights are non-existent. They have created a repressive society, and we are their unwitting accomplices. Their intention to rule rests with the annihilation of consciousness. We have been lulled into a trance. They have made us indifferent to ourselves, to others. We are focused only on our gain. The power elite plutocrats created a culture where people believe without question and think with emotion and bias and without reason or rationality in most cases. The culture architects created and instill in us contradictory belief systems. So the sheepherds always oppose each other and never reach compromise or consensus. When we disagree, we don't seek clarification. We just yell at each other. The mass lack of understanding and inability to be rational is controlled behavior that serves the power elite. It drives opposing parties further apart, so the power structure is never challenged by a unified and informed public. There's a fake world we are made to see, and then there's the one we sense, but we try to ignore it. And that is the one which is a far cry from the propaganda-driven reality manufactured by the government and its plutocrat sponsors, including the media. And that is because we must live in delusion to abide with the system of inequality. And you know what? Everything is dysfunctional now, including the very language we use. I heard a politician use the word rational the other day, and it scared me. Like, what? Now I can't use the word anymore? Well, not if politicians start using it, which would be an oxymoron in their case, because nothing done in this plutocratic government is rational. We are designed not to communicate correctly, and some words are interpreted based on our influenced beliefs. More of our language is becoming ambiguous. Certain words become associated to different meanings depending on one's beliefs, and semantics skew our interpretations. Communism, capitalism, anarchy, creation, evolution, socialized or privatized, pro-life or free choice, equality or plutocracy. We are programmed to be irrational and disagree, and we forget what constructive dialogue, respect, and compromise even means. Keep our indoctrinated beliefs contradictory so we never agree to advancing together and rationally. The Democrats can't communicate with Republicans. The Israelis hate the Arabs. Serbs hate the Muslims. Catholics hate the Protestant patties, and on and on. Many of us, including all the politicians, lack the skills to communicate logically, especially if we're emotionally invested in the outcome. Some guys can't even communicate with their girlfriends. Some parents can't communicate with their kids. Even we can't get along with our siblings sometimes after the parents die and we fight over the inheritance. Associates we can't agree with. We can't compromise with opposing beliefs. We argue and we bicker, and our endless debates are driven by our egos and our emotions. We even feel it's natural to communicate with doubt and hostility in our minds and presume listening or compromise with other people who disagree with us, well, that means we've been defeated. Some people think whoever yells louder wins an argument. Usually the Republicans are like that. They yell louder because they don't want to hear what you're saying. Well, all that communication dysfunction can end if we simply become rational, and that's why I love that word. And I don't want it to be ambiguous or misused by slimy politicians. Well, my statement to the world is, let's all just be rational. When we are, there's no more arguing or debating, because rational people have constructive dialogue, and that's what leads to progress. The only people who don't want to see social progress are those who benefit with the way things are and are insanely greedy. Those are the people who happen to be in control and influence the culture that our language evolves with. We are easily misled if we are irrational and emotional and unable to elucidate, and people have never been so easily misled and distracted. This is the obstacle we must overcome to have any chance of taking back control of the very trajectory of the whole human race. The End Plutocracy campaign must be coupled with a Be Rational campaign so we can agree on what we need to demand. So in the meantime, the modern media matrix will keep us in delusion and distraction and try to keep us divided in sheep herds. So let's give some tragic examples of this terrible transnational travesty. There's a triple T. I still got it, baby. Because our minds are irrational and driven by bias and indoctrination, the Pluti elite profit off us in unlimited and deceitful ways. Truth is no longer important. One's biases are what matters in this culture. The president and all of Congress have no real attachment to reality, and they lie compulsively. But no one cares, because we think we're entitled to our own opinions, and that's more important than facts. The government gets away with abusing us, and we never fight back. For instance, we don't demand higher education be part of the commons so everyone has an equal chance to pursue their interests. So in this plutocracy, the real value of minimum wage has fallen by 25% since 1978. You can't subsist with a low-paying job without help. So they're going to say, and they have been saying, well, it's your own fault because you didn't go to college. If you want to make more money, you got to go to college. Remember, Obama always said that to everyone. Got to go to college. Well, you know what? The cost of a college degree has increased 1,120% since 1978. So you have to borrow the money and pay it back with interest. Can you see the scam in that? Most people don't. They think purchased credentials is an acceptable way to gain advantage over others, which is always the American way. Well, this kind of programming makes us accept a society of inequality. How about people who try to wake us up to plutocracy reality and incite rebellion? Now, we just had MLK Day last Monday, so let's examine him for a moment. The government that hated and killed him created a national holiday for him. Oh, how nice. And they pretend to honor him. What a sick joke that all is. What the government tells us and what this great man did are two separate stories. And had Dr. King been alive today, he would have been an enemy to the establishment, including the Dummycrats, who would have made every move they could to silence him. And if it didn't work, he would have been framed and locked up or disposed of. And, we wouldn't protect him. We never do. We never protect our truth tellers. So check this out. The FBI began monitoring Martin Luther King Jr. in December 1955 during his involvement with the Montgomery bus boycott and engaged in covert operations against him throughout the 1960s. FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover was particularly hostile towards King, believing that the civil rights leader was influenced by communists too. Yeah, anyone who wants social justice must be a dirty commie. This animosity increased after 1964 when King called the FBI completely ineffectual in resolving the continued mayhem and brutality inflicted upon the Negro in the Deep South. Under the FBI's domestic counterintelligence program, COINTELPRO, King was subjected to various kinds of FBI surveillance that produced alleged evidence of extramarital affairs, though no evidence of communist influence. Oh my God, if you have sex with multiple partners, you're a monster that can't be taken seriously. Sex is evil, right, you holy hypocrite sheepy freaks? Now we act like an anti-war, pro-peace activist is celebrated in America when that is the opposite of reality. Like most things in our culture of cruelty. This is from the Free Thought Project. With a state that owes its very existence to the monopoly it holds on the use of violence, anyone who is pro-peace is a potential threat. This was the case in the 20th century, just as it is the case in the 21st century. The fact that Americans take off work one day in January does not negate the reality that this struggle continues. In fact, the government is still very engaged in fighting the anti-war and pro-peace narrative King so eloquently espoused. And they have no qualms talking about this in the open. After deleting the pages of hundreds of anti-war and pro-peace media and activist outlets in October, last week Facebook made another giant move to silence This time, they had no problem noting that they went after pages whose specific missions were anti-corruption or protest movements. Some of the pages frequently posted about topics like anti-NATO sentiment, protest movements, and anti-corruption. Facebook's head of cybersecurity policy, Nathaniel Glacier, wrote in a blog post, "We are constantly working to detect and stop this type of activity because we don't want our services to be used to manipulate people." Facebook purged hundreds more pages today. This time they claim it is folks who are anti-corruption and who protest who are the problem. Yeah, okay, assholes. To the Ministry of Truth, standing against criminal politicians is now deemed a crime. Like Dr. King, however, many activists of today, like Vince Marcanti, are unafraid of speaking truth to power, even when faced with police action and censorship. Bring it on, you bastards! I ain't afraid. Like the activists of today, Dr. King's activism was often met with brutal backlash from the police. Just like the protesters of today who peacefully march in solidarity to end police violence and war, the protesters of the 50s and 60s were met with violence from the police. Attacks against nonviolent protesters are nothing new. In the 60s, as the marches increased, so did the attacks against nonviolent demonstrators. There may be some tear gas ahead, but I say to you that I'd rather die on the highways of Alabama than make a butchery of my conscience, said Dr. King in a famous speech just prior to the Selma Montgomery March, in which protesters were met with such violence from police that the day would forever be remembered as Bloody Sunday. You slimy, inhumane cops have no soul or morals, and don't think for yourselves. You are the willing protectors of the plutocracy, and may you all suffer for being on the side of oppression. Dr. King was no stranger to police and being arrested. In fact, during his 12-year run as leader of the civil rights movement, he was arrested 30 times. Today, there's a good chance Dr. King would be referred to as a thug by a large portion of society and police for his activism. Dr. King, like many of the protesters of today, stood against state violence and war. Those who wage the wars and initiate the violence, delegating a single day in January to honor a man who stood against their very tactics, is defamatory to the struggle for peace, to say the least. So, while you were out there last Monday, enjoying the day off, remember that this struggle is far from over. There are countless individuals trying to live in the way Dr. King advocated for, and who face constant bombardment from the establishment for doing so. As long as people of all races are harassed, kidnapped, locked in cages, or killed over victimless crimes, our strife will persist. Not until the corruption ceases, not until all the troops are brought home, not until a person can do with their own body as they see fit, not until the brute force changes to compassion, will the perpetual struggle of Dr. King and all those before him be complete. That was excerpts from an article written by Matt Agroist. Well, nice job, Matt. I like that. MLK said, "Peace is not merely a distant goal that we seek, but a means by which we achieve that goal." Yeah, well, passivity hasn't worked yet. We may have to get a little violent. We'll see. Cornell West wrote this about MLK. "His grand fight against poverty, militarism, materialism, and racism underscores the superficial lip service and pretentious posturing of so-called progressives, as well as the candid contempt and proud prejudices of genuine reactionaries. King was neither perfect nor pure in his prophetic witness, but he was the real thing in sharp contrast to the market-driven semblances and simulacrum of our day. In this brief celebratory moment of King's life and death, we should be highly suspicious of those who sing his praises, yet refuse to pay the cost of embodying King's strong indictment of the U.S. empire, capitalism, and racism in their own lives. These neoliberal revisionists thrive on the spectacle of their smartness and the visibility of their mainstream status. Yet rarely, if ever, have they said a mumbling word about what would have concerned Dr. King, such as U.S. drone strikes, house raids, and torture sites, or raised their voices about escalating inequality, poverty, or Wall Street domination under neoliberal administrations, be the president black or white. Yeah, man, right on, brother. Well, everything in the mainstream is a show for sheep, so let's quickly take a look at how each sheep herd is being manipulated. First, to the Dummycrats, who had their last debate, and they kicked out Andrew Yang and Tulsi Gabbard, of course. This year's agenda of the Dummycrat establishment is to make sure Burney doesn't win. That's all that matters to them. The others at this debate are well-vetted and approved neoliberal servants of the plutocrats and guardians of the status quo. Well, if CNN wants to restore any bit of credibility, they better make this a serious debate with only pertinent questions that affect all of our lives, right? Like maybe ask Elizabeth Warren why she endorsed suffocating U.S. sanctions on Venezuela and is backing Trump's strategy to stop its ability to have an economy while parroting neocon regime change myths, and ask her why she whitewashed the far-right military coup in Bolivia. In fact, let's get all their true opinions of our industrial military complex and talk about the money wasted and foreign policy that never changes no matter what party is in the majority. And at least ask if they have any ideas of creating a better way to do everything in America. I say that would be a good debate. But let's see what the script writers of the media matrix of madness deemed was important and most pressing for this final Democratic debate. At Tuesday's Democratic presidential debate, Senator Elizabeth Warren and Senator Bernie Sanders, that no one likes, engaged in a he-said, she-said battle. Oh my God, how exciting! Regarding a conversation the two progressive candidates had in 2018 when both were about to embark on their campaigns, Warren says Sanders told him a woman couldn't be the president. Sanders has denied saying that, the little dirty liar he is. This is what the media decides is important to talk about. It's all a reality show promoting the Democrats' 2020 agenda. Anyone but Bernie campaign, Operation Bump Bernie 2.0. Well, I predicted Liz Warren will win. Then that was over 2 years ago, because she will seem more progressive to the disgruntled Dummycrat sheepies, than the other neoliberal idiots like Butthead Biden. And, she can be the first woman president and have all that excitement of something new, like Obama got for being the first black president. Well, the establishment is getting nervous because no matter how much they ignore him and try to hold him down, Bernie is still the most preferred candidate. Now, how could he not be? You have to be a complete idiot or apathetic asshole not to support him over neoliberal rats. So this was the big moment at the debate of the dummies. CNN co-monitor Abby Phillips brought up the all-important alleged discussion between the two senators. Senator Sanders, CNN reported yesterday, and Senator Warren confirmed in a statement, that in 2018 you told her that you did not believe a woman could win the election. Why did you say that? Phillip asked Sanders. Well, as a matter of fact, I didn't say that, Sanders responded. And I don't want to waste a lot of time on this because this is what Donald Trump wants, and maybe some of the media want. Anybody who knows me knows that that is incomprehensible, that I would think that a woman could not be president of the United States. Phillips then pressed Sanders. I do want to be clear here. Are you saying that you never told Senator Warren that a woman could not win the election? That is correct. Now, what happened next is extremely telling about how propaganda news media works. If somebody says something they don't like, they just ignore it and keep pushing their agenda. They pretend like they didn't hear a word you said. So Burney just emphatically denied ever saying what they claimed he said. So the CNN bimbo immediately turns to Warren and says this. Senator Warren, what did you think when Senator Sanders told you a woman could not win the election? Are you kidding me? Even the Dummycrats in the crowd laughed at how stupid she sounded. It's all a pageant of infantile distraction. They're trying to tell all women to vote for Liz and make Burney seem like a misogynist jerk. And I hope it doesn't work. I hope Burney still wins. I gave a speech at a Bernie Sanders rally in Chicago, and we recorded it. Maybe I'll post it to our website, theplutocracyreport.com, so you can hear it there if you want. Because I don't have time to play it on the show. I got too much to discuss. But I say go ahead and vote for him because he's less likely to order troops to shoot us when we finally revolt. So the establishment is trying to pull women voters away from Bernie. Now, the New York Times editorial board said that they endorse two people, Senator Elizabeth Warren and Amy Klobuchar. Wow, what a coincidence. Two women. They said they came to those choices after interviewing the top 9 contenders on issues that are most important to voters in this heated election year. Yeah, I'm sure they just happened to pick the only 2 women left just for their opinions on the issues, right, you freaking lying scumbags? The message is, come on, women, if you vote for Bernie, you are a disgrace to your race. We have 2 women for you to vote for. Now pick one, or you're a traitor to your gender. Okay, enough of Dummycrat propaganda. Let's look at the other sheep herd. Righty sheepies had a rally, and the media, like always, blew it out of proportion. Virginia Governor Ralph Northam declared a state of emergency in advance of expected gun rights demonstrations scheduled for Capitol Square on Monday, January 20th. Law enforcement intelligence analysts identified credible threats of violence surrounding the event, which is expected to attract tens of thousands of demonstrators. The threats include white nationalist rhetoric and plans of out-of-state militia groups to attend. The declaration prohibits all weapons, including firearms, from Capitol grounds. Joint law enforcement and public safety agencies will protect demonstrators, policymakers, and other people on the grounds. Oh my God, this is going to be crazy. There may be a massive shootout. They're going to demand the governor step down. These crazy white supremacists are going to start a civil war. Woo-wee! I can't wait to find out what's going to happen. Yeah, okay. Then the day came, and this was the report. Several thousand gun rights supporters rallied peacefully Monday near the Virginia state capitol under heavy security to protest new proposal on gun control legislation. What? How boring, you white nationalists. Come on now. You didn't even shoot the place up like the OK Corral. You wimps. Y'all bark and no bite. You're bigger sissies than the liberal anti-gun sheepies. Listen, all this gun rights crap is just another wedge issue to get sheepies out to vote in sham elections. This was a Republican rally, just as the anti-gun rallies are for Dummycrats. What, you don't believe me? 'Cause them liberals really do want to take away our guns? That's bullshit. They just pretend they're doing something by passing more background checks or limit how many guns you can buy in a month or whatever. Oh, we got rid of bump stocks. Didn't that help, guys? Isn't it all better now? It's just a wedge issue. They will never totally ban all guns, nor could they. This is all sheep herding. And here is the proof. The dimwit in chief, Trumpty Dumpty, tweeted this to rile up the righty reject sheepies. Your Second Amendment is under very serious attack in the great Commonwealth of Virginia. This is what happens when you vote for Democrats. They will take your guns away. Republicans will win Virginia in 2020, thanks to you Dems. And that's what it's all about. Now, listen, I'm all for the right to own a gun for self-defense while we still have a violent society of manufactured scarcity. And you can't take our guns unless you get rid of them all, including from the cops. When we have a rational society, most people won't even want a gun, and no one will need a gun. And, thanks to the gun industry, we can't advance to inventing more humane ways to incapacitate someone who's posing a threat. The only idea we have is shooting a piece of lead into their bodies. That's barbaric and primitive. We have to end this failed form of government and control. Time to get over this party politics deception and end them both and take back our government. It's time to get the people to see the truth and be rational and humanistic in our governance. It's time for total overthrow and an end to plutocracy and secrecy, and only we the people can demand it and make real change. Dude, what's going on over there? What are you talking about? No, I told you I'm not taking any more callers. And I don't think people like when I do it. I had a few complaints. Oh, come on. How can it be important? Who is it? Fine, patch him in. All right, sorry, guys and gals. I guess we're going to take a call. Let me do this fast. You got it? All right, let me put him through here. Hello, caller. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Is this Vincent Marcanti?
Yeah. Who's this? Is that you, Bruja? We're on the air, so get to your comment, please.
Is this your show, The Plutocracy Report, where you promote anarchy and violence?
What? No. Yeah, it's the Plutocracy Report, but I don't promote violence. I've talked about anarchy and gave people the real definition of it. It's not violence if it's organized and cooperative. And I talk about peaceful protests. I hope it doesn't get violent, but, you got agent provocateurs out there and these jackboot thugs who are brainwashed, so there might be some violence at first. But it's not like I'm promoting that. I'm just being realistic.
You promote domestic terrorism and suggested blowing up a high-ranking U.S. government official.
What the hell are you talking about? Who is this?
Sir, this is Major Lester from the VPD of Lake County. You can call me Major Mo, and you have been under suspicion of planning domestic terrorism, and I want to know if you deny making a statement about murdering a member of the U.S. government that you don't agree with.
What? Listen, Major Mo Lester, I don't know what you're trying to get at, but I don't talk about murdering people, and you're wasting my time here. I got to end this call.
Just answer one thing for us if you never engage in talks of violence. Tell me if this is you speaking.
How about Iran's lame missile attack in response? I don't know. It didn't hurt a flea, did it? Can't they blow up Mike Pompeo or something? Wouldn't that be fair? And welcomed.
That was your voice, was it not?
Oh, come on. I was just joking. We blew up their general, so I made the comparison to them blowing up that freaking dumbass churchy Zio freak. Mike Pompeo. I'm not suggesting we really blow him up, but, I really do despise that slimy scumbag piece of excrement. But come on. I didn't call for a drone strike on his dumb ass. All right, maybe it was in a little bit of bad taste, but it was a joke. Now, is there anything else you want to say, Major Mo?
Nope. You admitting to making that statement is all the evidence we need. Now, what room are you in right now? You're in the basement, correct?
Whatever, dude. You're done. Cut him off, Vinny. Holy crap. What was that? Did you hear that? Dude, someone's breaking in. Vinny, where's my bat? Hurry, quick, hand me my bass.
VPD, freeze!
Get the hell out of my house!
Sir, put down the guitar and lay on the floor face down.
Get out of here! What the hell are you doing to me? Get off me! Get off me!
Put your other hand behind your back. You're coming in for questioning.
Vinny, bring me a fishbone to the jailhouse.
Peoria Johnson, Joe Dudlow Joe. I can break out of any old jail you know. The bars are iron, the walls are stone. All I need, man, is a whole fishbone. Some fish in the jailhouse tonight. Some fish in the jailhouse tonight. Some fish in the jailhouse tonight. All right, look here. There's some fish in the jailhouse tonight. Oh boy, there's some fish in the jailhouse. Fish in the jailhouse tonight. Gold bean overline. Hammerhead shark, steelhead salmon, or a mudbank carp. I stand one side door, I look at the other side shark. Saturday night, I'll be in Central Park. In the jailhouse tonight. All right. Look at here, that's some fish in the jailhouse tonight. All right. There's some fish in the jailhouse tonight. Oh boy. There's some fish in the jailhouse. Fish in the jailhouse tonight. Ask little son Jackson or the 44 kid. Whitfield Faraday. What I did from Yazoo City down to Rolling Fork, Natchez to Kenosha, Newtown to New York. In the jailhouse tonight. All right. Look at here. Fish in the jailhouse tonight. All right. Oh boy. There's some fish in the jailhouse tonight. There's some fish in the jailhouse tonight. There's some fish in the jailhouse. Fish in the jailhouse tonight. Nice cold trouble over chicken up the sea. I'm gonna fashion me a fishbone skeleton key. Hell, scullion child, I won't be late. You can bet your freedom I'm gonna clean my plate. Some fish in the jailhouse tonight. Some fish in the jailhouse tonight. Some fish in the jailhouse. Fish in the jailhouse tonight. Some fish in the jailhouse tonight. Some fish in the jailhouse tonight. All right.
Hey everyone, this is Vinny Jr. and that was Tom Waits with the song Fish in the Jailhouse. Well, since my dad has been taken away, I'm going to play a recording of him giving his speech at the rally for Burney last Tuesday in Chicago. Hope you enjoy it.
Hello, everyone. I'm Vince Marcanti from the Plutocracy Report, where I talk about the need to overthrow our government. Well, believe it or not, I'm here to officially endorse Bernie Sanders. Now, last year on my show, I suggested we have a write-in revolution, and I asked for everyone to write my name in on the presidential ballot. And I think with all the rational and intelligent listeners who I call Pluto heads, we could have gotten dozens of votes. But I don't think we'll get the 65 million more we need by November. I just don't have the reach. I'm being suppressed. Well, I've never endorsed anyone since Ralph Nader in 1999. But I figure if we're not ready for my write-in revolution to make me president, or to have a massive revolt to demand an end to plutocracy, well, I hope all you sheepies who still think we have a democracy at least elect Burney. Because when we finally do what's right and end plutocracy by demand, with protests, boycotts, and general strike, I would prefer Burney to be president because he might not order the troops to freaking shoot us. And, Trumpty Dumpty, he would have no problem ordering them to shoot us to try to put down the revolution. Well, I'm rooting for Burney, and as a revolutionary who talks about killing the Dummycrat party to start a rational movement, some of you who might know me out there might think this sounds a little suspicious. No, listen, I'm still a badass rebel. Come on now. I'm not giving up on the radical, rational revolution. I think we can work with what his election would signify. It would prove a majority of people want humane change, and the economy isn't all that matters. Bernie still thinks he can work within the system, but, some of his proposals are half good at least. But nothing's gonna change until we the people demand it. Like, Bernie wants Medicare for all. Yeah, that's good, but it's only half the proposal we need. Yes, we must make healthcare a common right for all men and women, for everyone. But it won't work if we just change the method of payment and leave the rest of our healthcare system as it is. Overcharging and using plutocrat protocol, excluding natural healing, allowing the CDC to lie, and be controlled by Big Pharma. We have to end all that. And Bernie doesn't have any ideas how to do that. What? Maybe he still believes vaccines don't cause autism in 1 in 50 kids now. Maybe he believes everything they say, so we have to make the demands and tell him how to fix things. Now, come on now. We do not seem ready to end plutocracy by revolt quite yet. And I hope we will be soon, like when the next recession hits. That might light a fire under our asses. But if we are at least motivated enough to elect Burney, well, maybe we'll be active enough to demand real systemic change when nothing changes again. He won't be able to pass a law through Congress that ends corporate political donations. He probably couldn't get one thing passed, and maybe that would motivate us to take to the streets. The people must demand it by protest and boycott and national strike until our demands are met. It's the only way, and wouldn't it be better to have a decent guy who agrees with us in the White House rather than a greedy old prick who'll order the troops to shoot protesters? Bernie can't do it alone, and maybe he can be our rallying reason that finally gets us into the streets. Let's ban plutocrat money in politics. Let's fix our healthcare system and end the military-industrial complex and make it a force for the greater good of us all. And you know what? Let's make the essentials of our lives publicly managed, not my greedy private interests. Only we can demand that. And wouldn't it be nice to have a guy who partly agrees with us in the White House? Change is inevitable at this point in time. The climate is changing, and so must the Plutonomy House of Cards, which is nearing the end. That will be the final chance for us to end this power elite control structure. We the people must take action to achieve anything. Now let me give you another reason we should elect Burney. Because the establishment hates him. He is the only one they don't want you to vote for. And all the plutocrats and their minions are going to try to make sure he isn't elected. Just like last time, remember? When they made sure Hitler got elected. Let's make sure it's not like Jeremy Corbyn in the UK. You know, those limey idiots over there. And in all the U.S. vassal states, they vote for the candidate they were told to vote for. With this awful, inhumane, destructive, and unsustainable way our countries are governed by the plutocrats for the plutonomy system to continue, well, why don't we vote for the person they don't want to win? The limey sheepies failed, but maybe we can elect the one they don't want us to. Now, they hit Corbyn with anti-Semite smear campaigns, you know. But Burney's Jewish, so I don't know if they can take that angle. Are they allowed to do that? I don't know. I'm really not sure what Burney would say about the need to immediately demand human rights for Palestinians. Or, you know, if they don't submit to our demands, then we boycott Israel. And the same goes for every government that opposes and kills people or further destroys nature. Like, I have a World Trade and Cooperation Treaty that would end war and poverty and plutocracy and finally allow us to progress rationally towards a better existence for all. I'm sure Corbyn would agree with it. And you know what? I bet Burney would too. He seems like a nice guy. Now, Corbyn would not be able to change the agenda of the UK plutocracy. And Burney won't be able to change anything systematically. They don't even want to. They want to work within the existing dysfunctional system and try to achieve some incremental change that the plutocrats can agree to. Come on, what do you mean? What? I'm just being realistic here. Settle down. Now listen, even if Burney ever really challenged this fiat banking system of unquantifiable debt destruction and debauchery, they would whack his ass. You all wouldn't even know it. They would drug his coffee and say he had a heart attack or something. They control the autopsy, so it would be a fringe conspiracy theory that people can write books about, and Vice President Elizabeth Warren will take over and the Pluty agenda will no longer be threatened. What? I'm just saying one person can't change this government alone. It's captured from the top to bottom. Only the people can demand their government back. All we have to do is agree private influence in government must be criminalized and punishable by death. Then we can make decisions based on rationality and consensus. Doesn't that make sense? Which means we do what's good for the community, not special interest, upward money flow. Now, the neoliberal media and the Democrat machine are trying to get women not to vote for Burney. And I just heard this today. Listen. Hillary Clinton blasts Senator Bernie Sanders in a new documentary saying, "Nobody likes him." Really, Hitlery? He's the most popular candidate, but nobody likes him, huh? Who do you really mean when you say nobody? She said, "He was in Congress for years. He had one senator support him. Nobody likes him. Nobody wants to work with him. He's got nothing done. It's all just baloney, and I feel so bad that people get sucked into it." Now you see, the people who don't like him are the only people that matter to her. Sell out plutocrat puppets in Congress. And that's what proves Burney is a decent man. No one likes him there because he won't play dirty. They hate people who have ethics and aren't solely driven by acquiring more money and power. Burney never sold out. He stuck to the same message for 40 years. He has morals and principles that can't be bought. He is consistent and doesn't change his story like all the Pluty puppets have to do. That's why they look so stupid, because the campaign is so long and you can't hide the bullshit forever. But Burney never has to change his story because he never joined the club. For 40 years, he called out the greed of the top 1%. He knows they buy our government, and he wants to do something about it. He tells us, in America, we now have more income and wealth inequality than any other major country on earth. And the gap between the very rich and everyone else is growing wider and wider. Yeah, Burney, no shit. And taxing them 3% ain't gonna change much. The whole damn system has to change. What? Settle down. Come on now, I'm just telling the truth here. Inequality is a theme that runs through every speech Sanders gives. And over the course of his career, the way he describes the unfair distribution of wealth has changed very little. Look, Burney doesn't know how to systemically change our government and the monetary system and what to do about climate change and how we must halt geoengineering and end all government secrecy and the military-industrial complex. But I know one thing. His concerns have always been about families and their economic problems. You know what? And that's better than anyone else out there running for office. It's funny. I recently read that Trump said over 16,000 false or misleading claims so far. So I guess what they mean by that are he told a lot of lies. But that's the kind of president the plutocrats want. Well, you know, they prefer a better liar like Obama was, you know, where Dummycrat sheepies believed everything he said, you know, like destroying a peaceful and progressive country for the banking plutocrats, like what they did to Libya, wasn't a horrific act of immense terrorism and inhumanity, because he made it seem like a benevolent act of humanity. Oh, he was such a nice guy. He was a pro script reader and liar. And the plutocrats miss him because now it's more difficult to work with a buffoon like Trump. But everything's going along just fine for the plutocracy. And all the top tier takers will continue to do great, even during and after the inevitable collapse of our artificial economy. But Burney isn't a compulsive liar. And he talks about a little bit of the ugly truth that the plutocrats don't want us to think about. I say let's vote for the guy they don't want to win the most. The guy who wants campaign finance reform, well, I say just get private money out of government entirely to end plutocracy. But, you know, he's on the right track, I guess. And he wants to make healthcare a bit more humane like every other freaking country. So that's a great thing, but you know what? It's not communism. Don't let them label us as Marxists or socialists or commies or anything but humanitarians. Let's call ourselves rationalists. Socialism is simply a path to humane central planning. But the people must never give away the power of their government to the elite, which has been all that's going on throughout history. It inevitably happens under both ideologies, and the capitalist model is able to hide it better because the leaders pretend to be elected, but they're all bought, except for Burney. We keep it a dark secret and call it free market democracy, but it's clearly ruled by the rich in every aspect that matters to our lives. The same thing with communism. You think the Chinese are much better? Look again, too much power to the state. That's just as bad as too much power to the billionaires. We are now at a time when propaganda and distraction is so perfected that people have learned to love their servitude, and they trust their government. Only we the people can take back our government. We don't want to make decisions that affect our lives based on the upward money flow of free market capitalism that led to this plutonomy economy that's leading to near-term extinction. Nor do we want another communist government that inevitably leads to total power to the state. Both systems lead to less social equality and no democracy. We want the government to represent the people, and the majority of people want rational central planning based on what is for the greater good of all life on Earth. We can use our existing fiat monetary system to doing good things instead of bad. Local levels and out. Instead of applying it to bailouts and bombs, let's use it for health and happiness. Come on, it's simple to do. Just create a new currency based on real contributions to society. I got some more to say here. Hold on. All right, well, I guess that's it for me. I just wanted to say voting for Burney is a step in the right direction, but we must not think that's enough. We have to demand an end to plutocracy, and we got to get out in the streets to do that. I think Burney will back us up. He won't tell them to shoot us.
Get off the street!
All right, well, thanks, everybody. I'm Vince Marcanti. Check out the Plutocracy Report on PRN, Friday at 4. Bye-bye!
Well, the moon is broken and the sky is cracked. Come on up to the house. The only things that you can see is all that you lack. Come on up to the house. Oh, your crying don't do no good. Come on up to the house. Come down off the cross. We can use the wood. You gotta come on up to the house. Come on up to the house. Come on up to the house. The world is not my home. I'm just a passing through. You got to come on up to the house. There's no light in the tunnel, no irons in the fire. Come on up to the house. And you're singing lead soprano in a junk man's choir. You got to come on up to the house. Doesn't life seem nasty, British and short? Come on up to the house. The seas are stormy and you can't find no port. Got to come on up to the house, yeah. There's nothing in the world that you can do. You gotta come on up to the house.